There is a moment in every deep dive into early 20th century warfare when you come across a device so simple, so brutally practical, and so overlooked that it reshapes the way you imagine daily survival on the front lines. For the soldiers of the First World War, one of those life-saving innovations was the trench stove. Before you scroll past thinking it's just another relic, understand this. The trench stove wasn't just a heat source. It was morale, sanitation, nutrition and endurance condensed into a metal shell small enough to fit under a greatcoat. It kept frostbite from spreading, allowed troops to sterilize water when disease was often deadlier than bullets, and made hot food possible in a world of mud, gas and artillery. And the surprising part? The exact same design still works today with zero modification. If you care about practical history, fieldcraft, or emergency preparedness, this is knowledge worth adding to your toolkit. Now let's jump in and explore why this humble stove mattered, how it worked, and how you can still use the same principles in modern survival situations. The trench stove emerged from necessity, not convenience. In the early years of the war, soldiers relied on open fires when they could manage them, but, open flames in a shelled countryside were death invitations. Smoke gave away positions, sparks risked igniting ammunition, and honestly, the slightest wind could snuff out a cooking effort entirely. The trench stove, in contrast, enclosed the flame-funneled heat upward and consumed fuel with far greater efficiency. It could burn nearly anything. Charcoal, small branches, dried dung, even ration box wood soaked in paraffin. The stove's efficiency and low visibility solved a problem that entire supply chains couldn't fix. Armies could ship millions of rations, but they couldn't ship warmth, they couldn't ship boiling water, and they couldn't ship fire. The trench stove answered all of that with a small portable chamber that amplified heat and minimized smoke, changing the day-to-day survival odds for millions of infantrymen. The basic construction made the stove a masterpiece of simplicity. Although designs varied, ranging from factory-made iron boxes to improvised tin can contraptions, the core principle remained the same: a contained burn chamber, an air intake at the bottom, and a vented top opening for mess tins. This airflow system is what made the trench stove so reliable. Cold air entered from below, fed the fire efficiently, and pulled the heat upward where it could be used to cook. Even a crude version built from discarded cans performed almost identically. You can replicate one in minutes using 2 nested metal containers, cutting a small intake near the base and punching vent holes around the top rim. Once lit, the draft takes over, creating a concentrated column of heat far stronger than an open fire of the same size. This is why the stove mattered so much. It gave soldiers control over fire in an environment designed to take control away. This stove directly boosted survival in ways often overlooked. The first advantage was hot food. Canned meat and biscuits were nearly inedible when cold, but heating them made them digestible, reduced stomach distress, and helped prevent malnutrition. Many soldiers on both sides suffered from dysentery and cholera because water sources were contaminated by runoff from corpses, latrines and bomb craters filled with stagnant sludge. Boiling water became one of the most important protective measures available, and the trench stove made it achievable even during bombardments. The final advantage was warmth. A small stove, even one burning scraps, could prevent hands from freezing, help dry socks, and ward off trench foot when medical supplies ran short. Veterans wrote about the psychological boost a warm cup of tea or coffee could give after days of bombardment. That morale effect might be difficult to measure, but it undeniably saved lives through perseverance alone. You can still build and use a trench stove today with the same principles. If you ever need a compact emergency stove that burns almost anything, the World War I design remains one of the most dependable options. A modern version can be built using a steel paint can or large soup tin. Cut a square intake hole near the bottom. Place a smaller can inside to form the burn chamber. Punch ventilation holes at the top on all sides. The stove should draw air naturally once lit. Start with small tinder, feed in twigs, and place your pot or kettle directly over the top vents. Because the system forces heat upward, you get a high-temperature burn using surprisingly little fuel. This is valuable not only in wilderness settings, but also during power outages, homestead projects, off-grid camping, or long-term emergency preparedness. Understanding the trench stove, well, it really improves your grasp of military history and fieldcraft. Knowing how soldiers use fire under relentless pressure, it gives a whole new depth to the way you read wartime memoirs or analyze frontline logistics. When a diary mentions a brew-up, it wasn't just a casual moment. It was actually a calculated act of survival involving fuel scrounging, risk assessment, and those precious minutes of warmth before returning to the fire step. By learning how the stove worked, you also get a sense of how real field improvisation happens. It's not about fancy equipment, it's about understanding airflow, combustion, and fuel efficiency, then applying those concepts in any environment. Controlled flame is, one of humanity's oldest survival tools, and the trench stove represents a perfect intersection between history and practical utility. The trench stove remains relevant because, honestly, it embodies timeless survival principles. It teaches that simplicity is often more dependable than technology. It teaches that the ability to heat water, sterilize gear, and warm the human body can shape the outcome of events far more than the most advanced weaponry. And it teaches that history offers tools we can still use today, whether we're preparing for emergencies or studying the daily lives of those who endured the Great War. If this deep dive into forgotten wartime ingenuity brought value to your day, make sure you subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and share this video with someone who appreciates real history and practical knowledge.